Aragorn's confirmed recasting in Andy Serkis' upcoming The Lord of the Rings, The Hunt for Gollum movie might indicate a bigger problem with the franchise's cinematic return. The Hunt for Gollum will return to familiar ground, as the story is set before and around the beginning of The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Both Sauron's forces and members of the eventual Fellowship will be searching for the creature Gollum after his long-term possession of the One Ring. This means that a handful of the Lord of the Rings trilogy's most notable characters will return to the big screen, including Frodo Baggins, Gandalf, and Aragorn, formerly known as Strider. While it's been confirmed that both Elijah Wood and Ian McKellen will reprise their roles as Frodo and Gandalf for The Hunt for Gollum, the much more surprising casting news is that Viggo Mortensen will not be returning as Strider. Instead, his part will be played by Jaime Dornan, best known for his roles in The Fall and 50 Shades of Grey. Though Aragorn's recasting had been rumored for some time, Viggo Mortensen's return to Middle-earth wasn't ruled out completely until recently. In an interview with SiriusXM in May 2024, Mortensen said he had an open mind regarding a potential return to Lord of the Rings. A few months later, in December 2024, Philippa Boyens, whose writing and producing work has been integral to Middle-earth's theatrical success, said that she couldn't imagine anyone else playing Aragorn and admitted that his joining the film likely hinged on the quality of the script. Now that it's confirmed that Viggo Mortensen isn't returning to the role, Boyens' earlier comments about Aragorn don't necessarily inspire confidence in the Hunt for Gollum story. Viggo Mortensen's absence is a troubling sign for the Hunt for Gollum credit, New Line Cinema via MovieStillsDB. Of course, without direct confirmation, it's impossible to know exactly why Mortensen isn't returning for The Hunt for Gollum. There may very well have been a scheduling conflict, or perhaps he couldn't commit to a long filming schedule in New Zealand. Still, given Boyens' earlier thoughts on the subject, it's difficult not to question whether something else prevented Mortensen from picking up his sword again. The Hunt for Gollum story may seem like a safe bet, given its proximity to one of the most beloved fantasy stories of all time. Yet there's a danger of not only complicating the franchise's theatrical canon significantly but also forcing a story where one isn't needed. The script is based on J.R.R. Tolkien's notes and appendices. Gandalf sends Strider out to retrieve Gollum before Sauron's forces can, taking him straight into Mirkwood, but how can a story like that add anything of real significance to the audience's understanding of Gollum's character or the influence of the One Ring? The main reason the Hobbit trilogy was so much more divisive than Jackson's The Lord of the Rings trilogy was the inclusion of unnecessary details and story threads that stole focus from the main event. There's a danger here that The Hunt for Gollum will repeat those same mistakes, stretching out what should be a footnote in Middle-earth's history. How it turns out is largely dependent on the strength of the script, just as Boyens noted when speaking about Mortensen's hypothetical return. An older Viggo Mortensen as Aragorn would have been the better option. In this case, introducing an older Viggo Mortensen as Aragorn might have been the better option. Elijah Wood and Ian McKellen don't look the same way they did in Fellowship. Orlando Bloom's Legolas looked different in The Hobbit compared to The Lord of the Rings, too. Visually, it would likely be easier for viewers to wrap their minds around an older version of Aragorn than it would be to accept, let alone appreciate, an entirely new face in the role. With today's technology, even without AI, which Boyens herself mentioned as a non-starter in that same interview, there are ways to make Mortensen look younger than he does now. That kind of VFX work has only gotten better over the years. Hollywood has come a long way since the days of a young, uncanny Luke Skywalker heroically arriving to save a captured youngling in The Mandalorian Season 2 finale. In most prequel-esque situations, recasting would be the preferred route. An entirely new cast of actors can deliver varied interpretations of the characters and their dynamics, though this only works if every major role has been recast. The issue here is that Strider is the sole recast character. In this case, Mortensen's absence will be all the more obvious whenever Strider interacts with McKellen's Gandalf. It's unlikely he'll have anything to do with Frodo, as they canonically meet for the first time in Bree. The bond between the actors was such a massive part of The Lord of the Rings appeal. It's impossible to replicate that. Even one of the original actors from the Hobbit trilogy will be reprising their role. Lee Pace will return as Mirkwood's Elven King, Thranduil. If an actor from Jackson's divisive prequel movies can, deservedly so, it should be said, return for The Hunt for Gollum, Mortensen's lack of involvement in front of the camera feels like a giant missed opportunity. Jaime Dornan is great, but faces one of the hardest jobs in movies right now. MovieStillsDB. None of this is to say that Jaime Dornan isn't deserving of the role, or that they didn't cast him as Aragorn for a reason. Dornan is a fine actor, with The Fall, The Tourist, A Haunting in Venice, and Belfast showcasing his incredible range. His portrayal of the huntsman in the series Once Upon a Time even offers a glimpse of what Dornan might look like in Middle-earth garb. He has the look, and he's the right age to play this version of Aragorn. Luckily, Dornan isn't the only new face in the hunt for Gollum. Joining Wood, McKellen, Pace, Serkis, and Dornan are Kate Winslet as Marigold and Leo Woodall as Halvard. Still, Winslet and Woodall will be playing new characters. Dornan doesn't have that luxury. Everything he does will inevitably be compared to Mortensen's performance. What Dornan will face will likely be 10 times worse than what Liam Hemsworth endured when he took over the lead role in The Witcher from Henry Cavill. This isn't the first time a major Lord of the Rings character has been recast. Prime Video's The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power has done it, too. The difference there is,